Yes, it's working. And so, our first person, and all I can say is her first name is?
Karina.
Yeah, and we will learn how to pronounce her last name when she gets on the show. But she's a medium and a crystal channeler, and hopefully she'll be open to doing readings. At
I
least
think
she
she's
said
from
she was.
Illinois.
I'm not sure exactly where.
I looked up some of her information.
Yes, but we will have that information. I'm going to post it all this week in, you know, Facebook and wherever else I can stick it. That'd be great. So tonight's show is whatever it is. I never know. It all depends on what Spirit wants to talk about. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, well, me
Good.
too.
Okay.
At least we're in sync.
That's good. Why don't we pull a card to get the ball rolling as far as a topic?
That's true. That's
Okay,
the way
about
it
this
goes. Well,
one.
that one. What happens when we're out of harmony and in harmony? Well, when we're in harmony, we can almost finish each other's sentences. And being in sync, I was really being pushed by Spirit that I'm supposed to write about a relationship book. Another one, people say, another book about relationships. Yeah, in this case, the relationship book is about what happens when you apply the healing tools to your daily health, to anything that's familiar that seems to be in pain and agony. And what do you do when you heal those healths? What's left? Well, pretty much joy and harmony. Scott and I's relationship is a testimony to that. For the fact is that we had been together for 17 years. Spirit said, it's time to do a path switch. So I looked at the areas in my life that I didn't think was working, and it was me and my husband. And we were just a regular, average couple, you know, 2 kids, you know, have a mortgage, have a place to live that's, you know, in a good environment. But it was the thing that would happen over time, and that was the building of the resentments, the building of things that were unresolved between the two of us in relationships.
You start keeping score.
You start keeping score, and the pain would build up to the point where, you know, it's about, I don't want to be in this, so you have to fight back, or you have to conquer, or you have to build up hate, and I'm like, that's not what I want to do. I don't want that. I want that bonding that we had. So pretty much I had tried to talk to him just like an average couple would try to talk to each other. You know, all of a sudden you would have a lot of pain, you would be heard, but then something else would go wrong. And the next thing you know, you're back from square one. The repetition stayed. The foundation of the health stayed. And I said, no, I cannot do that. Not being a medicine woman that talks about healing your health. And so I would heal my health individually, which then caused my vibration not to match with his. So it was, you know, in November, do or die. Does he want to be in my space or doesn't he? So I have a meditation that heals the soul's entanglement cords to one another. So I did a soul healing cord to my husband, and for 3 days he was contemplating. It literally created a contemplation about whether or not he wanted to be with me. Did he want to move forward with me? You know, was he supposed to be in another direction? And he don't like to talk about it because he still has some pain to heal on it, but it has ended up being the best thing for us. For the fact is that he made a choice. Yes, I would like to move forward. Okay, in order for you to do this, you need to stay in your authentic state of who you are. What do I mean by that, Jen?
It's so easy to just, for the sake of a relationship, and I'm speaking from my personal experience of wanting to be in relationship, oh, I want this person to like me. And so I'm willing to give up parts of who I am. Oh yeah, sure, I like sports, is what I would say to people. I'm really not interested. I'll watch them if that's what we're doing. If we go, like as a family or a group of friends, we'll go to a ball game or something like that. That's fine, but it's not the first thing that I'm going to do. So I said that because I wanted that person's acceptance. Yeah, I'm willing to, well, I don't know, I can work outside and garden and that kind of thing, which I do like to do, but it's not, I'm not compelled to go do it. I know how to, and I will. But it was, yeah, sure, I'll go do that. And it was just all these things to get the other person's acceptance, because I thought that that's what it meant to be in a relationship. That, yeah, I had to say that I was willing to do this, even though, well, I really didn't want to, but I wanted that other person to like and accept me And so I was willing to, not in a conscious way of, oh gee, I'm going to rip out part of who I am to do this. It was like, it was very subtle and twisted how it starts to happen.
Well, one of the things that occurs when we are discovering whether or not we like that part of ourselves when you're building that relationship is that when the relationship becomes a demand, a have to, and where you're forced to, you know, well, why aren't you doing the garden today? I mean, some of the conversations were you were obligated, you have to, there was no choice. And if you didn't do it, then you got chastised.
Right, and so it was like I was getting punished by the person that I was in a romantic relationship with, and that sucked. I can't even begin to describe the suckage of that kind of
suckage
part of a relationship. It does. It's like, and I'm out there going, how did I even get here? Honestly, out there,
well,
I know how to pick vegetables and weed and garden and do all this, but to get yelled at, to get chastised, I'm not doing it right, and that kind of, it's like, how did I get here?
And that's the thing, is that, again, when we discover, like, I knew I didn't like sports, but it was my attraction factor is I would draw people that like sports. And so it's like discovering, who are you? Well, you know what? I don't like listening to it at 24/7. I don't like that our only entertainment that we do together is sports and, you know, these little things. And when I discovered that part of myself, and then I were to say something, then all of a sudden you're accused of being a liar. And the question then comes, how do you, I mean, the first part that always bugged me is, how do you meet people?
Because we started talking about this yesterday.
Yes, because it gets very frustrating. When I was younger, it was simply, how do you communicate? Well, I have people that walk up to me, and whether I like them or not, you know, that depends. Well, if I'm going to give you a shot at it. If you are mean to me, then guess what? I don't have to be your friend.
Or if there's a rapport. Are we naturally building a rapport? If there's no rapport there, then do you really have to force one? I mean, there's small talk and chit chat and social situations, that kind of thing. But you're going to find out if there's a natural harmony or rapport that you start building with somebody if it's not there.
But it all depends on what you're focusing on, because now like on Facebook, I used to just be so scared of, you know, is scared the word? Well, I wouldn't really think it was, but in deep down, it falls under the category. All right, I don't want to bug people. I don't want to inconvenience people. Well, how the hell do you meet people? So I finally said, okay, I'm going to just pick 10 random people and look at their faces I feel comfortable with, feel their interest. Okay. So I hit click, and they all accept. I said, oh, so I got talking to a couple people, and a lot of people just want to be friends but not talk. Okay, I learned that. That's not bad, but you learn about them in another way. Some people say it's lurking, but you know, they want to share that part of their life. They just don't want that connection, because that introvertness, it becomes very hard to follow. But then there are some that one guy says, oh, why don't you become friends with my other friend, so-and-so. And I says, oh, okay, so I clicked on it, and I says, you know, to be a friend. Then he writes me the nastiest letter back saying, I don't know who in the hell you are. Why in the hell would I accept an invitation from you? I don't know you. And I'm like, wow. And so here I go again. I'm reaching out just like I did as a kid, and I got slapped because I was breathing in their general direction. And what gets me is, how do people reach out? So, you know, I watch the bar scenes. You know, a lot of people are scared crapless. Some people have got the knack for talking to anybody, and it depends on what the intention is. I've had somebody come up and talk to me one time, and I'm chatting back. I have no problem with that. And, you know, if I'm not interested, you know, I'll tell them. But the point is that what harm is it in some degree? Now, some people say, well, I've had a lot of harm. I have stalkers. Okay, you know, you can heal that. You don't have to have that kind of cord. But how do you... I mean, it's your fear that says no to a lot of things. I mean, I was an introvert because of my fear. But when I finally said that's it, I'm going to just weed out those that don't want to be my friends. But there are people that want to be my friends. Why should one person scare me so I won't become friends with anybody? Why don't I just go ahead and find out who wants to be my friend, and who doesn't? Fine, that's fine. I won't have to be your friend. And now, instead of having just a few people and friends, you know, I've got over 6,000 friends, and why not?
Yep. It's funny, you were talking about the bar scene. I remember, so, for those who are listening and watching and don't know the exact story. So I went through the divorce process starting last December. So a year ago around this time, we, our group from our spiritual family here went out to, you guys all came over for angel healing, and then we went out dancing.
That's right.
Right, that was that time this year. And so it was like around Sweetest Day or something. And I don't pay attention to a lot of those holidays. But our friend was saying,
That's
hey,
August.
it's actually this month.
Oh, is it?
Because our friend
Happy
pointed
Sweetest Day.
well, this week I think sometime. But anyway, so our friend was pointing out that it was the day that we happened to go out last fall was, and he said, "So what's going on?" And and I joked. I said, "Oh yeah, well I'm married, and why do I have to worry about it? Why do I really, we wake up together and that kind of thing." I had no idea I was going to be going through the process 2 months later.
Oh no, she
But
really knew that. Yeah, I got a husband. Yeah, and Sweet Day. Oh yeah, we don't celebrate that.
Yeah, we're fine. So, and it was so interesting because then I didn't have any problem going up and approaching guys because I was married.
Yep.
At that point in time,
Just to talk.
I didn't. Okay, yeah. You want to talk to my friend? Yeah, I'll go. And now I'm going out, and it's like, oh, it's back to square one. And yes, there are things that I will be looking at and healing, but it's such. Just in the year, you were talking about the bar scene, going up and talking to people and that kind of thing, and what that's all about, and how to approach people and how to make friends, and it really is starting to. The idea is about building that rapport, and that's part of really any relationship, romantic, friendship, business, co-worker. You're building a rapport. There's some kind of friendly foundation. And what's interesting is when people, and we've talked about this before, but okay, so people start talking to me and my friend when we went out this time, and so how do you gracefully, you realize there isn't a rapport. Okay, it is about building that rapport, but what if there isn't one, and how to gracefully step out of that when somebody says, oh, I want you to meet my friend, you should meet my friend, you want to meet my friend, come over, here's my friend. Yeah, that I don't see a rapport, and it's almost like it's the Facebook equivalent of a friend suggestion, which is fine on Facebook, but in person it's a whole other thing because you get into social obligation and that kind of thing.
True, very true. And the thing about when, like she said, the guy, there was absolutely no attraction. Now, I will tell you that one, you need to heal to some degree a little bit more of your stuff, because I've had people that I had no attraction with, but yet they're going to come over and they're going to talk to me. I'll talk to them, but at the same time, you already knew what his intention was.
Right, and I knew what our intention was.
Correct, and that can interfere with a particular type of relationship, because this girl, we were standing in the Comic-Con and this guy was talking to her. Just chit-chatting away. The intention, there was no intention. She didn't know his, and they just figured, oh, they're standing there. And he kept talking to her, and I'm thinking, well, I see a rapport. I'm going to just step over here. And
I had no idea.
No, she didn't. And she was okay with communicating.
Right, I didn't care at all.
Because
here's our business card.
about,
let's talk and make connection. Sure.
And who knows, when she got home, hey, I liked you so much. And she's like, oh, not that
What? That's what was going on?
So you have to be careful of the RTJP. What do I mean by that, Jen?
Oh, it's that wonderful part of the brain that, what are other people thinking? Guess what? There's part of your brain that's going to tell you. Or you're thinking what other people are thinking. You may be thinking what they're thinking, and they may not be thinking that, but you're thinking that they're thinking that, even though that's not what they're thinking.
Exactly. One of the things that's about that RTJP, hold on, it's behind you, Scott, if you want to know. All right, trying to write notes and think and talk and point, that doesn't work. My husband asked me a question. Okay, that RTJP, it is meant to help us socially interact with our environment and to socially allow ourselves to, well, honey, why don't you duck down and walk?
We're almost over.
Oh, whatever. You guys are probably wondering what's happening. He needed to walk out the door, but he had to walk in front of the camera. Okay, that social interaction is very, very important. That we have to know how do two people work together? And the RTJP isn't just about thinking what other people think. There's other things that it can do. But it's so important because it's your definition. It's your file system. It is you that defines how you're going to think about them. So you actually have a lens that you have to go through. And like I said, the RTJP is a very unique tool. It's like if you saw two sandwiches for you and your friend, and one falls on the ground.
That's your friends.
That's what a 3-year-old would say. Oh yeah, that's my friend.
Yes, that belongs to you.
Then the moral compass comes in, you're thinking, do you tell them? I mean, my son would go, oh, here, Ma, I got you something. And I'm like, oh, thank you. And it's a piece of pizza or something. And then I've learned to not say thank you and take it because he has handed me dirty stuff. Oh, he'll drop right in front of me. Oh, this is your piece. Oh, seriously? And he'll say yes.
It's like my dad's popcorn story.
Talk about it.
When I was a kid, we made popcorns. My dad worked second shift, so that means he wouldn't get home till, I think he got out at 11. He worked 3 to 11. He'd get home by 11:30 or so. But anyways, us kids, we made popcorn one evening, and we accidentally knocked the bowl of popcorn all over the floor. So we swept it up, and we thought we'd just feed it to the chickens the next day. So we swept it up, and we put it right back in the bowl with the intention of feeding the chickens in the morning. And we got up, and the popcorn bowl was empty. My dad had gotten home from work and seen the popcorn in there after we swept it up, put it back in the bowl, and he ate it all.
Oh my goodness.
And we told him, he says, Dad, we swept it up off the floor after we spilled it. He says, thought it tasted kind of gritty.
That would be something Dad would say.
But
eat it anyway.
no ill effects. I guess you must have good immunities being a farmer, Used to that stuff.
Oh yeah, you pick stuff out of the field and wash it up, blow it off,
anyways,
and then eat it.
That was getting back to nature, I guess.
But that RTJP is, it was there to help you grow. The stages of how your rational reasoning comes in, and then there's the 5-year-old that thinks a certain way, and you learn to upgrade. The 7-year-old, and then beyond 7 years old, that's when all of a sudden you start to learn this reasoning thing, and there's other people and players involved, and then by, of course, 14 is when they start to get really mouthy, because then they know it all. And all you're doing is growing along with your maturity of understanding, working things out, rational reasonings, but at the same time, they get stuck in there. And you were telling a story, I think, on the show today, or when we were by ourselves talking. We have a lot of jam sessions. You were how old? Oh, I know, it was in the big room.
Oh, about making friends.
Yes.
Okay, so we were talking about this yesterday, and because we want to get out and is it recording?
Yes.
Okay, get out and expand our platform. And what does that mean about friending people on Facebook and building up followers on Twitter and this, that, and the other, and what might be standing in our way? So I'm 39 now, and I'm thinking about, well, yeah, I still have some of this stuff, and I'm still shy about certain things and that kind of thing. But as we're talking, I'm like, I had this memory of when I became friends in kindergarten. Now, prior to that, I with my mom and her friends, and before we moved into the house when I was in kindergarten, we lived in townhouses, and there was not really co-op, but like there was a parent group, all parents, and if somebody wanted to go out on a date, the couple wanted to go out on a date, okay, babysit over here, and they would just exchange and do that because we were neighbors and that kind of thing, so you'd make friends that way. So it was like you had kind of like instant friends because of who you were, who was the babysitter and that kind of thing. But this was the first time where I was actually on my own going to make a friend outside of that kind of situation. So in kindergarten, and I still remember in the bathroom, she was over there and I was over here, and then we decided, hey, let's be friends. Okay. And so we, okay, what does that mean? So then, and she didn't live too far away, but my mom drove me over because, I was 5. And so, I remember taking my little doll and the little thing that the little crib that my doll was in, and gonna go over to her house and make friends and play dolls and all the stuff that little kindergartners like to do. And so I remember standing at the door, and I said, Mom, aren't you gonna knock? She goes, no, this is gonna be your friend. You need to knock on the door. And I'm sitting there as a little 5-year-old going, what? I gotta knock on the door and do what? what? And so, you know, I knock on the door, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what if she isn't home? What if she doesn't want to play dolls? What if she doesn't like my doll? You know, and I have these homemade blankets, and what if she doesn't like homemade blankets? What if hers are all from the store? And like all this stuff was going through my head. She wasn't even home. And so then ultimately went back and we became friends, and we were in Girl Scouts and all kinds in dance classes together, became really good friends. But that initial interaction of wanting to go intentionally make friends was just, as a little kid. It was fine when we were at school or running around on the playground, but if I was going to go over to her house and what were all the rules going to be and what was her mom going to be like and all that kind of stuff, it's all
But
that
it's that
social interaction.
self-talk, and that self-talk comes from somewhere, and usually from memories of something bad, or it's the RTJP trying to figure out how to, in that moment, and it creates all of these crazy stories and all of these thoughts, and you're trying to figure out which one feels comfortable, and which one's going to keep you safe, and which one, and then you end up making excuses and irrational, rational reasons, and you talk yourself mainly out of doing certain things because you don't know, and so you end up creating this particular way of behavior. So it is very important to understand that RTJP. So when I told my husband that I'm leaving him, I'm done, it was not that I didn't try, it's not like I didn't talk, because I just couldn't do it anymore. And so I said, alright, I'm done. From this point forward, we're not husband and wife, I quit, I'm done. And I'm all set for path switching, getting a divorce. And he's like, okay, fine. Alright, you're not going to fight for it, that's fine. Okay, we're done. So, literally, I just left. And I can't really run because I got 2 kids, but it was on the table. It was very firm. And it put him in a tailspin, but it was his bitch slap. He had all the whispering opportunities up prior to that, but he didn't think anything of it. He just figured it was the daily way of people live. He would go and talk to people at work. Hey, how's your wife? Okay, everything. Oh, well, I'm right on track as far as relationships go. And, of course, I'm not your average woman. I don't see it that way. I think and see differently. And finally, you know, he realized, I'm not kidding, I was done. Mm-hmm. So you have any, you know, there's a lot of things that need to still come up to the surface that needs to heal. Now you wish you wouldn't have gone through that.
I know.
Okay, talk loud enough.
Yes, I wish I wouldn't have had to go through.
But are you happy with the outcome?
We are better today.
And we're more in sync?
Yes.
What does that mean?
We think like each other, I guess, more. I don't know.
It's not that we have to walk on eggshells. We don't have to.
We're not at odds with each other.
Correct. All the resentment, he was saying, he said, it was really weird because he goes, oh my God, it's like all the resentment burned up. He felt like I had dipped him in fire. That was his biggest thing.
Yes.
It's like I saw a volcano and just kicked his ass in and pulled him out. You done yet? I didn't do that, but to him, it was as if I did.
That's what I went through, yes.
But it was the dross of all that negativity, the way he was thinking was gone. And we've learned that when we drop out of sync, well, first of all, we won't be able to communicate.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you want to draw sides, and you want to go into the fighting. You want to say who's right. You didn't get my point across. No, I want you to listen. Well, we don't have to go through that.
You start gathering minions to prove that you're right.
Yeah, it depends on how far you want to go. But with the new relationship, because this is a new world, I'd say, okay, well, there's a negative feeling there. Yes, okay, let's address the negative feeling. And I would, and once the negative feeling was gone, what was left was getting back in sync. We didn't have to work for it, it just happened. And the hardest part was for him to admit that he had a negativity of, I don't like when you act that way. Okay, so let's heal that so that you don't fuel it to cause me to act that way again. Am I blaming him? No. This is what his soul expects people to be. I expect my soul to see him a certain way. I did my share healing. I still do it every day. If there's anything that needs to come up, we don't have to work as hard because we have also decided we want to pay attention, bring our whole selves to the table. What do I mean by whole self, Jen?
It is, the whole self is not having to fake it, because there are times when, for example, that story I talked about being that little 5-year-old in kindergarten, and my mom kind of saying, okay, well, this is your thing. You're going to force it. You're going to overcome. You're going to do it anyway, and whatever it's going to take to overcome. Well, my whole self wasn't in it because I was shaking in my boots. I didn't know how to do this. I hadn't learned. This was like one of my first interactions of going to make friends with somebody, and from that point on, it was kind of built up on that. Yeah, I wanted to be there, but there were parts that were really scared about it, and I can feel that today when I'm going to. I mean, I'm just involved in so many different projects. So
then
whatever
I will
project,
muscle test her if you watch the video. So just think about that, 5 years old, okay, and it's about 11. And what would you think it is on, if you think about the feeling?
of being scared.
Yes.
Oh, I would probably say that it would be a 20 plus.
Okay.
As
Yes.
that little 5-year-old.
And then that's what she's looking through, is through her 5-year-old eyes, and she's looking at it. If you're watching the video, you see that she's looking at the thing, the 5-year-old experience. Now, if we were to heal it out, is it locked in all the meridians? No. Is it locked in 1, 2? So the first one is lung, thyroid, heart, liver. It's in her liver, and that the liver is that first part of when the energy presents itself, and you're not really alarmed because that's your stomach meridian, but there's an excitement, and you don't know exactly what it is. You're not threatened by it, but it's there. And until you know how to interact with it, it becomes stuck, usually in the liver. Now, if we were to heal that part, then we go lung, which is the grief. And sadness? No, just grief. And the anguish thinking, anguish and the cloudy thinking, and probably a yearning that it's over with. But there's that next step of, oh, and then she explained to you, she's all excited, she's going to her friend's house, and all of a sudden her mother says, oh, you do it. What? She wants to do it, but she don't know what it looks like. And then there's the grief because, number one, she never came to the door because she was not home to play with. And so you have all of this stuff that's built there. So does this interfere with your life today? Yes. As I'm muscle testing her, does it do with dating? Is it doing finding friends on Facebook? It is when you're face to face with people and that you want to talk but you can't. You actually paralyze. Is this also affecting you when you muscle test? Yes. So when she's interacting with other people, it literally will stop her from being able to do some of the things, like on-the-spot acting, muscle testing, because she's good at it when she's not put on the spot.
Right.
So
it's
that child was put on the spot. You may want to write that down. The being put on the spot is what actually causes her to go into a specific strategy. Then she has to have a strategy to get out of it. Okay? So going back to
putting your full self into something.
Yes.
So like I was saying, so I've got I'm involved in so many different projects, but if I was honest about all of them, there are times when no, my heart isn't into it fully. My whole self isn't into it fully, but I know I have to overcome. I have to do that thing, like my mom said, okay, you gotta overcome it, you gotta do it. But that doesn't, how well is it gonna happen if I'm in that state versus if my whole self were involved?
Exactly. And then there's the extreme that's the opposite, and that is where me and him were interacting. One of the things that were happening was that I said, oh honey, I need you to help, because he's very smart and I like his expertise and things. So I'll say, honey, can you help me do this? And sometimes he won't bring his whole self. He'll say, yeah, and he comes in and he sits down and he helps me. But 3/4 of himself are off wandering in his mind, whether it's something else he wants to do, or he's thinking about another project, or he's on hold, and he's doing his best to focus, but he hasn't got his whole heart with me. And I'll say, honey, okay, I want to teach you something here about bringing your whole self. I said, when you have done projects where you brought your whole self, the project was done like boom, done. No problems, everything was smooth. Then you've had projects where you begin them and they should only last 10 minutes, and then 4 hours later you're going, what the hell? And that's because you didn't really want to do it in the first place. Your heart wasn't fully involved in it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So do you really see the difference that when you really want to do something, it can be done quickly?
Maybe.
I don't know where his examples are, and I'm not going to tell you. But but that's what happens when something about putting your whole self in. So when
And it's about being honest too, and it's okay to be honest
Oh,
to
yeah.
say, myself isn't into this right now, because then then the other person, when we're talking, not everybody, but at least with us, we're like, well, then it's probably not going to go smooth, and it's probably going to take twice as long as why don't we do something else?
Yeah, why don't we wait until we're in sync and doing that later? But at the same time, it is that part. Well, I like how you just said that, because you have to wait your turn to some degree. Yes, there's things I like to do. I'm a type of person that, I see an idea, I like to do it, I get it done. But then there's other people involved, and so you have to wait, not on them, but you have to wait for the alignment. I always throw it out to the universe. Okay, I'd like this done, I'm supposed to do it with this person, arrange it for me. And instead of going, oh my God, which the RTJP would say, oh, I gotta wait for them, it's always on their terms. Oh! And it's not true. But it can be if you believe it that way, and if the more you believe it that way, the more it's going to be sculpted to look that way, and you'll collect all that proof you need, because that's what your ego does. And I hate to use the word ego, because it is your human mindset that collects it. Your ego is not an entity as much as it is a filter. It is that electromagnetic guiding omni-apparition. It brings to life your thoughts through your electromagnetic energy and projects it out in front of you. And when you over-identify with it, then it comes to life. That's what they mean by ego. But most people don't know about that part. They just think it's ego. So, no, I forgot where it's going.
For your life, or do you want it for me?
Okay, we're back, and we have a live caller. So go ahead and...
Caller, you are with Medicine Women Reveal.
How can we help you? Hi.
How are you?
We're good. And how can we help you, dear?
I just would love a reading. I have a lot going on, and I've had readings done before, and I really appreciated all the insight I received. So.
Okay.
Okay, so you want just a general reading, or do you have a question in mind?
General reading, I guess.
Okay, and how we do it is that we look at how your soul wants you to know information, and what does it want you to heal, what does it want you to grow. So we're going to find out.
Okay.
And do you have kids around you right now?
No.
Okay, is there an animal?
No. No
Interesting.
kids, no
I feel a
animals.
lot of energy around you at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to pull away from that and enlist more about what your soul wants, because you have a tendency to, and the energies around you get influenced by it, and it actually kind of bullies you into planning your day around what everybody else's ideas are. And so that's, okay, so that's why I said I feel like there's other energies hanging around. Okay, now what that is usually called morphine, where you end up doing what they want. Okay, so the flee mode. Most of the time, this has been getting on your nerves, and it's like you're okay, you're no big deal, but then there are most of the times you just want to run. Now, this isn't yours. This is something you picked up as a 1-year-old. And so was your mother under a lot of stress when you were little?
Yeah.
Okay, so you probably felt her anxiety, her flee mode, and what they're saying is that you as a child wanted to rescue your mother. So that means that part of you took on that energy and to figure out how do you have compassion for her, how do you help her. And you've also now carried it over in your adult life with other people, and I've got to figure out where they're going. Jen, what is the story here? What do you see before I go further?
Okay, the cards that I pulled, I'm using Earth Magic Oracle cards from Stephen Farmer. And so the biggest thing is unable to breathe, take a breath. And they're just saying breath of life, your lungs, and there may be some grief or something. And so you don't get to reflect. Whatever it is going on, you don't get to reflect, you don't get that quiet time, and you're supposed to stay vigilant in whatever you're doing. You don't get to do that, but you still have to stay strong, and that's blocking any opportunity where you would be bringing in a new beginning.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, can you repeat? So I need to reflect before I start a new beginning, or?
There needs to be some healing, and Brenda will get into what specifically to heal, but what they're pointing out is that you're not able to breathe, have that quiet time to yourself, to reflect. And the message that I feel like you've been given is that you're just supposed to stay strong. you need that time to be able to breathe, but you've had to stay strong for whatever reason, whatever's happened in your life, you have to stay strong. And what that's doing is blocking a new beginning of any kind to come in.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Now, when we
Okay.
look at this, one of the things that your soul wants you to do is to heal it. And we have
Yeah.
a website that has healing tools, and we'll tell you about that in just a minute. The main thing they're telling me that this is stored at is this is very much dogma for you. Different day, or same shit, different day.
Yes.
And this is what you saw that meant that you were supposed to be an adult or a mother or a worker, or the roles is that, oh, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to have compassion to the point where you're supposed to save people, or you're supposed to do that. You always got to be strong. You can't, and you learned at 1 year old that you couldn't relax because your mother couldn't relax, and you were doing your best to save her, from what I see. What I would tell you to
that's
heal.
true.
What I would tell you how to heal is because all the stuff we just said, all the stuff that sounds familiar, that, oh my, yes, that's it, you would hold R1D. R represents the right, 1 represents the number 1 position, and D represents pushing in deep. Now, the healing tool that we're going to tell you about can be found at
www.mwreveal.com, mwreveal.com, and on the left-hand side are healing tools, and in that is hope therapy, and the code that she just gave you for healing is for hope therapy.
And a little bit of the hope therapy, it's important you watch the video because you'll understand more of the value. And to really get the value of this healing is that you have to put it on a scale from 0 to 10. Yes, this is my life. I can't breathe. I can't reflect. I don't get time for myself. Well, if that's the thinking, then you will go ahead and you will hold your left thumb on your right wrist, and you hold it in the first position, you hold deep, and then you place your hand on your forehead and your hairline, and you sit there, and when you hold that position, your job is just to think, to feel, just to be familiar. You put it on a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being, yes, 10, that's my, ugh. And then you stay you stay in that position. What will happen to the brain is the blood will come back up to the brain, start cleaning out those thought patterns, and literally starts disrupting the way that you keep thinking. And it'll actually change so that you can start having a better life. Now the self-talk will come down, the nervousness, all of that, all the feelings, everything will start to come down, and you want it down to 0. You want the color to be white. And when you get there, you will notice that you can't think about it anymore. You won't be staring at the problem. You're like, yeah, it does exist, but it doesn't have a hold on me. And most generally, then you call back in and we'll give you another healing tool. Or if there's a lot you need to do, then you call and make an appointment, and then we can help you go through a lot in just a very short amount of time. So it's important to disrupt these signals. And you want to change that pattern. Okay?
Okay. Do you guys see those affecting my relationship, my romantic relationships?
Okay.
I feel like that's
Yes, it does, because you are also a kinesthetic. A kinesthetic in a relationship, and you tell me whether or not this is you or him, but just listen. It's like all of a sudden you're talking to him and you guys get into an argument. If you're looking at him, all of a sudden it'll be like he won the argument. You lost before you began. You seem to sympathize more with him, and you're like, what the hell? You literally cannot speak what you need to speak.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, what it is that you're a kinesthetic, which means you feel your environment. Whereas Jen is tonal. She listens to certain things in her environment. Some people are visual, and they see certain things when you're arguing. When you're really stressed, it takes all the rest of your sensory systems away, and it focuses on your feeling. And you, being a kid, you morphed, okay? That's what happens with the kinesthetic, is that we get influenced by that energy. It's nobody's trying to do anything evil to you. It's just that this is how you knew how to read the energy. And without realizing how to, to fine-tune this gift of how you do it, instead it swallowed you up and it looks like a curse instead of a blessing. I'm a kinesthetic, and I've learned to, when that occurs and when that emotion gets strong, is to disrupt it so that I don't have to be influenced by it. I mean, my husband will say key words like, okay, And the next thing you know, I'm getting up, where are we going? And I was like, dang it. You know, I don't mean to have that happen, but it does. Okay, so the part of you that needs to really feel, and so you would feel it, and you would sense, and you would know, and you focus on that as you're healing, and the number and stuff will come down. Now, when it comes to that relationship, you will learn to not look him in the eye. Now, some people say, you have to look me in the eye to tell me the truth. For a kinesthetic, that's the worst thing that can happen, because literally...
It's like the video game Pac-Man with the little ghost, little Inky and Blinky, come along to Pac-Man. That's what it happens with a kinesthetic in their relationship, is they just woo, 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 because just looking somebody in the eye is going to do that to them.
Because you feel like you're being eaten alive, and it's not that you want that to happen, but it does. Now...
I always look away, because I can't focus.
Yeah.
I look at them.
Yeah, because that makes perfect sense. Okay, so when it comes to that relationship, again, going back to healing like we were telling you, in this case I would have you do something else, but Jen's got something, so go ahead and tell her what you pulled.
Well, you started asking about the relationship. So what happens is you retreat. And this is what we were just talking about. The retreat happens. Not that you're going to go on a retreat, but
you take a break. You
retreat.
Check out.
Right. And so as far as any kind of wedding, romance, making it happen, having that commitment, it's going to kind of stay out, what do I want to say? Just out of reach until this encoding that we were talking about is cleared up.
Okay, but according to this, if you were to heal and to not let this issue be in your way, you actually healed it, then the relationship's actually worth waiting for.
Yep.
Okay.
So the energy of that person that you're with, it looks like he's worth waiting for.
Or she, because we don't judge.
Yeah. Okay.
That's really cool. Okay.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah. I have like a big decision I need to make though, and I guess I just need to heal.
Okay, so what I want you to do, if you don't heal, then I want you to focus on the person that you're thinking of. Okay? As you focus on the person you're thinking of, the question I'm going to say, if she didn't heal this issue, what kind of relationship would they have?
Yeah.
And then that will be, as soon as she gets her fingers on it, you will be playful, but you'll lose the attraction energy, and then it could build up of being very unhealthy. You won't be able to grow.
Games. You'll just be playing games. The
right.
Playfulness will just turn into mind games.
And then as far, when you heal and you get it all complete, then you'll allow yourselves to be able to have a better relationship.
To depend on each other.
Yeah.
In a healthy way.
Exactly. And what else if she were to heal this particular thing? You pull. From a man's perspective energy, it is, you'll have the chemistry back, and then you won't have to play these mind games and trying to figure out how to get closer. Because your relationship will actually evolve and grow. It's just like when the first time you go on the date, you can't fart in front of each other, and then the second time, the third time,
You can't even eat.
Yeah, especially from the girly point of view.
From what people say.
And then finally, after a month or so, depends on how long you can hold your gas, somebody will break wind, it'll be him or you, and it takes that relationship to a whole new level. And
it's like, you hog.
But what happens is you start to feel more comfortable, that you can be more vulnerable with this person. So that's what I'm saying, is that your relationship will actually start to develop and to grow instead of being stagnant and force things to occur. Okay?
So you know where to go for the healing, right?
Yes. You know where to go for the healing, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Happy healing, and stay in contact.
I'll do a little therapy. I will let you guys know. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, dear.
Thank you so much for calling.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
And we love calls like that. That really helps us to, grow and to become more who we are, and it helps. It helps being very much out there and giving back to people, and it helps humanity. Now, we're getting back to, if anybody have any questions about the caller, be glad to talk to you about it. Otherwise, let's get back to the whole self. Now, it's funny because someone says, you put your whole self in, and shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around, and then you guys are pretty funny in there. That's so funny. But shaking it out, because there's another one that says you get all shook up if you don't put your whole self in. Tee hee hee. Now that's funny when you think about this, because we were watching Eureka, and Eureka is that really cool TV show with Colin Ferguson, and they were talking about, hey, you know, when you age, your hearing goes down.
You can't hear the same frequencies as
Right,
well.
because
Oh.
inside, I can't remember what town, I think it was in England, they did a test, and these kids were hanging out in front of this local restaurant, but kids wouldn't go in, just older people. And the owner was getting ticked.
Right, he didn't want the younger kids loitering around.
Right, and so the older folks were getting upset. So he found out if he took and played certain sound frequencies in front of his store,
His clients that he wanted to come in the store couldn't hear this.
no, they couldn't hear it. They came in, and all those kids that he didn't like couldn't stand the sound, so they would leave. So he found out how to help. I can't remember if there was a suing going on or not, but he figured it out. I want these kids not to loiter. Now, in the show, they were having this beam of some type of laser beam, and what it does is it works on sound waves to destroy. So they were making a Death Star, a death
Weapon.
death ray, and it's based on sound. And it was there were certain things that were happening, and all of a sudden the bridge had fallen apart, and his car crushed, and other little things. And what they found out was that the vibration was so contained in that area that it started to shake from the inside out, and literally shook itself apart.
The molecules.
The molecules
from the inside out.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at this, go back to Tibetan or anything that has to do, like there was a bowl of water and with copper handles, and if you rub your hand on the copper handle while there was water in the bowl, the water would get all excited because the vibration of the sound of that, and it would become very explosive. You have even the book Messages, Message from Water, or whatever it was called, right down there. It says Messages, Masuru Emoto, Love Thyself, and it was about the messages in water. And literally, just taking a bottle of water and you saying mean things to it would change the vibration of the water and destroy it, the molecule cell in it. But if you were to say, I love you, I love you, I love you, it changed the molecule cell. So your body literally starts to fall apart when you're out of sync. Part of one reason that my husband and I kind of split was because my body started to fall apart, because I could feel when he was resenting me. I stored it. I stored it in my lungs. I didn't mean to, but it was, being a kinesthetic, this what happens. Okay? That's one thing that happens, and I literally go, okay, you're going to have to heal the fact that you resent me, or we're done. Just because I couldn't live with that anymore. And I had healed a lot of my resentment towards him and a lot of all that stuff. So I was really looking for that connection with him. And it was hard to do when your whole self is busy entertaining resentful thoughts. Or, do you understand what I mean by that?
Hi, you're a resentful thought. Why don't you come on in? I'm going to entertain you.
Hey, baby, how you doing? Okay, so everybody's human and everybody resents. Everybody does these things, but you can resolve them. So when you put your whole self in, you have a choice. We were talking about in church. You were having, see if I can jog your memory. You were having your church service, and you were talking about the difference between giving your whole self. Somebody had the idea that I have to give up everything about me in order to be in this relationship. There was something in the church. You probably don't remember it, do you? And you're like, no. It has nothing to do with giving up and giving your whole self. Bringing all yourself to the table was what you were referring to.